outside with myself, that ass a rich time.
She made me feel like, oh, early in the morning, okay. It don't even matter really, baby. She made me feel like, oh, even in the heat, turn into a heathen on me. She made me feel like, yeah. Oh, yeah. She made me. Shawty text that come swoon.
Hi, everyone. You ready? Hi, good morning. Hi, good morning. But welcome to March for Our Lives, last day of action. Today we will be focusing on the power of art. My name is Lauren Henry, and I'm a Youth Congress member, and I'm so glad to be here with y'all today and all of the wonderful talents here today. Today we'll be focusing on the power of art, and we know that art is a dynamic tool to heal and to express ourselves, and any way that you use art, I would say, is valid and dynamic, and we keep that in mind today whenever we are going and seeing the people who share their art with us. First up today, we will have Shani Del Los Angeles. She is a Dominican American performance artist based in New York. She's currently working to alchemize pain into joy. So I think that's really dynamic and I'm excited to see.
Thank you, Lauren. Trying to move it. All right, how are you guys? As she said, I'm Shani, and today I'm going to share a piece that I wrote a couple years back called In My Dreams. And it's really relatable to me right now because I'm currently navigating living with my mom again after several years of being apart. And we have a very dynamic relationship. My mom is a Republican and very adamant about supporting Trump. And that has been a really hard pill for me to swallow. And so I wrote this a couple of years back, and I feel like since we're in the theme of art and how it heals and how it liberates and how it's important to have as a part of the revolution, as a part of the radical change, this piece reminds me of my journey in loving myself and in navigating my love for my mother. So with that, here's my piece. People always ask me, what kind of change do I want to see in this world? In the government, in this country, in this president. But when I think of change, I never start with the world. I start with my own community. I start with my own home. I start with my mother. In my dreams, I get a mother who looks like me, a Black mother who sings to me. I picture us in the sand. She's showing me the scars on her back she's been hiding for 20 years, but in my dreams, she teaches me how she learned to love them. She tells me to look at my scars, kiss them, she says. Keep kissing till you start to love them too. In my dreams, my mommy picks her afro out so big, it blocks out the sun, and yet I'm still blinded by all this light. Like, she got me thinking there is no difference between God and woman. She got me thinking, well, if that's what carried me for 9 months, then what kind of magic am I made out of? She takes her pick and hands it to me, dares me to feel the weight of the world in my dreams. Mommy explains our hair. She says it carries the lives of women before you. That's why it's so big. Hay sangre en tu pelo. There's blood in your hair. And it carries the lives of women before you. But you see, that's the thing about dreams. Eventually, I gotta wake my ass up to a mother who does not look like me, to a mother who would vote for Trump again if she could, to a mother who tells me beauty is from within as she slaps the relaxer on her roots, to a mother who's never known how to love herself Black, to a mother who's never known how to love me in my Blackness. But when I learned to love myself by myself, I couldn't help but see all the parts of me killed along the way. Now I understand why they say a Black girl loving herself is a deadly act. Sandra Bland taught me that. Hay sangre en mi pelo. There's blood in my hair, and it carries the lives of women before me. When I'm forced to be awake, I see what this country is and I see what it ain't. And when people ask me what kind of change do I want to see, I just say it starts with my mother and it ends in my dreams with a mommy who looks like me And damn, does she love herself. Does she love herself fiercely? Thank you, guys.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that piece, especially in the state of America. I feel that, girl. Love that. Next up, we will be having Maxwell and Naya from Mad Soul Music and Art Festival. So excited. Could you tell us a little bit about your festival?
Yeah, definitely. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Maxwell,
I'm Naya.
and we're the well, mostly I know I work for March for Our Lives, but outside of that, I own a small music festival with Naya. It's called Mad Soul. We founded Mad Soul about 2 years ago to raise money to feed homeless people and homeless students within our community. And so we felt like this was a big need in the community, and we founded a music festival about it. And what we do is we primarily focus on booking local acts, not just local like artists as far as music is concerned, but we also bring in local vendors, local brands, local visual artists, local collectives, local magazines, just everything local within the Orlando scene, and bring them together for one night to raise money for the Food Angels, which now I'll talk about in a minute. And we started this festival with the hopes that we'd be able to, number one, uplift people in our community, but number two, obviously raise money for the Food Angels to feed people. And so what we're trying to get across is that you can use the arts to raise money and raise funds and raise awareness for the needs in your community. And that's kind of what we're doing with Mad Soul. And like a lot of times, people think of the music festival as a festival to raise money for a cause, but really the festival is the cause itself. We uplift young people. We uplift people who are maybe later into the game and they're starting to lose hope that maybe art isn't for them. And we put them on the stage with hundreds of people to show them and kind of ignite that fire again. And it's really a place where people can come together and feel safe to donate, but also dance and have a great time. So I'll kick it to Naya to talk about Food Angels.
Yeah, so the Osceola County Food Angels were started by 4 women who just kind of looked at the school system. They're like, man, there's over 4,000 homeless students in Osceola County alone. And these are women with full-time jobs. They took their own time, they took their own money to go out and pack these boxes full of food, get donations from different businesses, and they're actually personally going and delivering these things to these families. And Max and I just kind of saw this, for like, this is amazing. Like, we've been in there, we've been packing the boxes, and we're like, how can we further help? And so that's when we decided every cent of profit or anything extra after covering costs goes to Food Angels.
Yeah, definitely. I think like a big part of the festival too is creating the right environment. And I think like that's something I want to get across too for folks who are wanting to produce events and create atmospheres in which people can give. It's like, our festival is like a regular music festival, but when you come in, it has the vibe and the atmosphere that allows you to make new friends. Something that someone told me a few months ago about the festival is they felt like they were inside of a playlist and they were just going from stage to stage and discovering new music. And I think a lot of that has to do with, number one, obviously the types of artists you bring in. Last year, we actually had, if you were on our hub yesterday, you saw we had phony people perform, and we had actually phony people perform at our festival last year. And I think having artists that bring amazing energy from the local level all the way to the national level creates an environment in which people feel safe to donate. People feel safe to dance. People feel safe to meet new people, because we have people come to Mad Soul by themselves. And if you're out there and you go to concerts, going to a concert by yourself sometimes is a little daunting, right? But people feel like safe to come through by themselves and leave with new friends. And we work hard on that. And I think a lot of, what attributes to that success is the fact that we let it be what it is. We really don't force anything. We just provide the platform for the artists, and what blossoms is just beautiful every year. So yeah, but I'll kick it back to Naya to talk about some specifics.
Yeah, I mean, as Max was mentioning, we have the 2 stages because we want to promote that movement, and we want everyone to connect with each other. We want people to take a look at all the art and just really connect with the people in their community. And we've seen some really, really beautiful things blossom, and some creative collectives form from that. So it's been just a great experience, and we just want people to connect and learn more about themselves, maybe expand their music taste or anything like that. And I will say something personal for me that Mad Soul has helped with is expanding my skills and experience, because I'm an engineer, I'm a lighting designer, and those are both white and male dominated, which obviously is very intimidating for me because I'm the opposite. And I'm a young Black woman out here getting to run lights for these national acts, which is something I would not have been able to do for way further into my career. So kick it back to Max.
Yeah. And, I think the big thing that we're really trying to get at with folks, like, number one, our festival is super local, right? Like, we 100% self-fund it. Between Naya and I and our friend Chris now, we self-fund it ourselves. We don't have any big donors or anything like that. But what we do is we focus on the people who attend and the people who want to come. And so we just want to show some photos as well. Trevor, if you can put up the slides, I'm having some technical difficulties. But I want to show you all a little bit about what it looks like so people can get to know it. And, we really hope y'all can kind of take our example of Mad Soul and go to your hometowns and create a space where people can come together, enjoy the arts, enjoy thrifting, enjoy everything art has to offer, and be in a space where they can donate, be in a space where they can dance, and be in a space where they can meet new people. And we're actually very privileged because March for Our Lives Florida has been a sponsor of our festival in the past, which we're really happy about. And we really love all the support and love we get in the community. But yeah, just letting everybody know, let's continue to create events locally that uplift artists and uplift people. And
Yes.
with Corona. Oh yeah, go ahead, Naya.
No, I was going to say, someone mentioned in the chat, I will drop the link so you guys can donate to Food Angels. And then I will also drop our Instagram so you can keep track of everything.
Yeah. And a few months ago, I think it was 2 months ago, was actually supposed to be our Mad Soul this year. And it didn't happen because of Corona. The world started ending. And so we decided to do a virtual Mad Soul. And my friend Naya here, Naya is super smart. She's smarter than me. So she said, why don't we do a virtual art gallery? So we wanted to share with y'all the art gallery that from Mad Soul to kind of end our time here. And this song is produced by Naya, and she also made the art gallery. The art itself is from all the artists that come and present at Mad Soul. So we introduce to you the Mad Soul Virtual Gallery. So yeah, either way, thanks for having us on. We love the arts, we love production, we love live events. And I think a lot of times when we think about the arts, we think about music, film, dance, and all that, which is the arts, of course. But I think a lot of times, like, the aspect of creating environments in a live space gets left out of the conversation. And I think, like, the art of producing live events is something that is an art too, creating an atmosphere for people. So thanks for having us on. I'm gonna kick it to Naya, talk about steps y'all can take right now to help us with what we're doing.
Yes, I did go ahead and put the link to their website in the chat, so you can go check that out. It's OsceolaCountyFoodAngels.com. They're accepting donations, and they're looking to help people expand to different counties, different cities. So anything you guys can do to help is greatly, greatly appreciated.
All right, cool. We'll kick it back to Lauren. Thank y'all.
Are we okay? So next up we have Carolina, and I believe she's under. Is she a part of your festival, Maxwell?
Yeah, so sorry about that. Yeah, so Carolina actually performed at Mad Soul Virtual that we did. And so we thought it'd be great to have her to perform here today. So everyone give it up for the one and only Carolina.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. I think everything that you guys have been saying is absolutely beautiful. Maxwell, Naya, and Sheni, I was super moved by your piece. And to kind of bounce off of your theme of truly loving yourself and knowing your worth, I wrote this song and it's called Love You Some You. So I just hope that you're able to reflect on these lyrics and enjoy the vibe. I wish you could hear me when I tell you you don't need nobody else to complete you. You're not gonna find your love in someone else's touch just because it was easier to throw yourself there. Are we leaning to something, a closer revive? Is it leading us into a better time? I can finally look you in the eyes, show you that I'm not the same one you left behind. How you gonna tell me the truth and live a lie? You say you feeling empty and I can tell you why. You gotta love you some you. Love you some you. You gotta love you some you. Love you some you. You gotta put yourself first in order to survive. You need to learn to love yourself and push the world aside. You need to feel yourself before you feel someone else. If not, then you just gonna be lost in the realm of self-hate, self-pity, feeling lost in your own eyes, looking for a mirror and asking yourself why. I'm trying to heal and get back to a point of feeling good about myself and what I got to give. And maybe I should focus more on me and making sure that I'm alive. This new journey's gotta start with one stride. I can't hide who I am and try to please another. I wanna look at myself the way I'm looked at by my mother, and I wanna love again, but right now I'm waiting, praying, cause I know my soul can do the saving on its own, making way for a new day. And from now on, you gonna hear me say, you gotta sing it with me. It goes, you gotta love you some you. Love you some you. You gotta love you some you. Love you some you. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Now you finally see me when I tell you you didn't need nobody else to free you. Face to face with a new sense of pride. You've been running from it this whole time, when all you had to do was love you some you. Love you some you. You gotta love you some you. Love you some you. Thank you guys. It was called Love You Some You. If you want to find it anywhere, Apple Music, Spotify. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a beautiful event. God bless.
That was wonderful. Oh my gosh. Do y'all have goosebumps? When she said, sing along. Y'all are lucky my mic was on mute. So next up, we will be introducing Miss Carrie Twigg. She is a political strategist and former Obama administration official, media influencer, and producer. So, Miss Carrie, are you here? Hi, yay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, these performances have been amazing. So congratulations to both of you on being such gifted artists. And definitely to Naya and to Maxwell, that festival sounds incredible, and the work you do is very impressive. So yeah, my name is Carrie Twig, and for about 12 years, I worked in politics and government at various levels. I started working on campaigns when I was like 19, 18. So some of the ages that you all are, in Ohio, where I grew up, and worked for the governor there, and then did Barack Obama's campaigns and went into the White House and was special assistant to the president for economic and labor policy. And so I did a lot of our policy making around stuff like raising the minimum wage and expanding access to paid sick days and paternity leave and maternity leave and all those things that sort of can bring stability to any working family. And that was sort of like my vision of what I would do for the remainder of my life. You know, I think when I was 11, I asked my mom what government is, and she told me it's old white men sitting in a room deciding how free you are. And that is still the most succinct and accurate definition I've ever heard. And I became obsessed with government. And so I wanted to work in the White House from the time I was 13, and I never imagined a scenario in which I would work there in my 20s and leave by the time I was 30. And so, you know, one of the things that happened over the course of time, I was sort of single-mindedly focused on politics and government. And one of the things that happened over the course of my years there was that I became incredibly focused on cultural campaigns and on the fact that an idea has to exist in the imagination of a citizen before it can become policy. And the way that we get those ideas in the citizen, in the collective body of the people, is through art and is through culture and is through the stories that we tell. And you know, we make decisions every single day when we feed information to the Netflix algorithm, right? We make contributions and we tell them what kind of content we want to see. And that's the stories that we get. And so, you know, and that's based on all sorts of other information, market research, so on and so forth. But fundamentally, I started thinking that, you know, the stories that I think should be told that would lead and ladder up to the policies that I want to see enacted didn't yet exist, or there weren't enough of them, or they weren't taught or told and shared in a way that I thought was sufficiently progressive or imaginative or whatever, radical. And so a few years ago, so I left the White House in the spring of 2016, fully confident that Hillary Clinton was going to be president. And we're just like, okay, so I'm gonna go make a movie or make a TV show or do something else. And then obviously we ended up where we are. And sort of the need for that kind of politically aware and politically radical and challenging storytelling has never actually been greater. And a few years ago, about 3 years ago, I started a production company, and that does documentary TV series and movies with a partner of mine, Ray Shamnijan. And she and I have one of the only women of color owned production companies that actually runs production services. So we hire all the editors and we hire all the gaffers and the lighting and sound engineers and all of that. And we keep them on staff and we run the crews. And so most of our sets are either all women or mostly people of color. And we are sort of a rarity in the space. There's obviously so many incredibly talented filmmakers but we're one of the few companies that sort of houses them and don't operate independently. So we're called Culture House, and we have a bunch of different shows, one of which will be on Netflix that's looking at racism and misogyny in America through the lens and experience of women in hip hop. One will be on, I can't say where yet, but it's about the sacredness and the tradition and the impact of Black women's hair. Another I'm working on about reparations, something about protest art, something about how you give cultural support to young people as they grow up to like think about race think about race. How do you talk about that? How do you talk about microaggressions? How do you embrace talk about gender fluidity, all of these things. And And so that's all through entertainment, right? And it's we really focus on trying to make something that's entertaining, but also really kind of squarely, radically, and unapologetically confronts the political realities that our bodies put us in, that our politics put us in, and instill kind of a point of view in a viewer that will ideally lead up to policy choices that will change our country and change the world. So thank you so much for having me. It's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for that. That was really powerful. And if y'all have any questions, make sure that you're using the hashtag #OurPower. That's right. And so next up we have Miss Hannah Bleacher. One second. So she's an Oscar-winning production designer for Black Panther, whose work includes Moonlight, Fruitvale Station, and Beyonce's Lemonade. If that's not power, I don't know what is. Miss Hannah Bleacher, are you here? Unmute yourself.
Did I do that? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I guess you want me to tell you about myself? Is that?
Absolutely. And like what you can tell, give us some pointers on how to express ourselves through art or whatever you want to share with us pertaining to art or whatever, literally whatever you want to share with us.
Well, I mean, I'm a production designer on feature films, narratives, and you know, I work on a lot of stuff, you know, I work on a lot of different types of films. I think I work on films that mean something to me in the world, to my community, films that I know that need to be made. So I always want to be there for that. Like Moonlight was a very tiny film, you know, and we just had high hopes for, you know, making something that otherwise you would never see. You know, and we didn't know if anyone was going to see it, but we knew that if one or two people saw it, that it spoke to, that was plenty. And it needed to be, you know, it needed to be made, it needed to be done. And doing something like that is what helps get backing for other small films. Having done Fruitvale Station was part and parcel to getting Moonlight done because it did well. And I think where I'm at in my career as far as the film industry, which a lot of, you know, young people want to get into, a lot of young people want to look into what it is to be in the entertainment industry, whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera. We need more people of color and Black women specifically behind the camera. I'm one of 3 Black women on earth that do the job that I do right now. And that's where we're at. So, you know, I do a lot of campaigning for finding young talent who are interested in film and art department. And I speak all over, you know, to young students, high school students and middle school students about getting into the film industry. And I'm from Ohio. I'm from the woods. I'm not from a big town. I'm not from any place that would have gotten me to where I am. And I know, you know, oftentimes you don't want to hear hard work, and it was a lot of savvy to get where I went, you know, and a lot of endurance. So, you know, making art that makes people uncomfortable is a lot of what I like to do, because because that's the only way that you can break the cycle. You know, that's the only way that you can make sure that stories continue to get told. And I think pretty much my body of work kind of says that. Lemonade was something that no one really understood, you know, in my industry, which is an industry of older white men. It was really funny because Beyonce just does not, she does not really care what anybody thinks. And I take a lot from her in that, you know, I grew a lot when I did Lemonade, and I saw how she worked and how she took so seriously her community and being a Black woman with unapologetically, which look, I'm 50 years old, I'm an old lady, And I still have to say, be Black unapologetically, because I'm still learning how to do that within the industry. I would say the best thing you can do for art is be yourself and tell your story. You don't have to look for a million different stories. The story that has to be told is your story, the story that's closest to your heart. And that is radical. The truth is radical. The truth is revolutionary right now. That's where we are, you know, and that's what I continually try to do in my career. So, and just pushing the limits of things that, and putting myself in spaces that you wouldn't see people that look like me. Again, it goes back to making people uncomfortable. You can't be afraid to do that. You can't think about what audiences think of you or your art. You have to really put yourself in a place where it's really what's coming from inside, because you're reacting to everything that's going on around you. You're subconsciously understand your art is that. It is political. It is what's going on around you. If it doesn't, you know, make you angry or make you happy or make you sad, it's not really doing anything. That's what I got.
Wow, can I just say that was some powerful stuff right there, and congratulations to you and everything that you've just broken barriers, and wow. That's all I can say is wow.
Thank you.
Between Miss Carrie Twegg and Miss Hannah Bleacher, we have a couple of questions for y'all. So we have a little discussion here, virtual panel, if you will. And so our first question today, and this is for both of you. So there are obvious intersections between the arts and activism that most people are familiar with. Documentaries, songs, and art about issues in the world, etc. What would you say are some other ways that art intersects with activism that isn't as obvious to people? Okay, so that's for both of y'all.
I know, I'm like, what is that about? That's heavy.
You need me to let me know.
It's a Friday night, and I'm an old lady. That isn't
obvious.
You know, I mean, that's a good question, you know, because in that instance, are you to understand that that's what you're seeing, right? If it's not in an obvious way, I mean, I think that art intersects in narrative film. I don't think people think about that. I think they go to enjoy themselves and not really understanding everything that they're seeing. I mean, it's exactly what we wanted to accomplish in Black Panther, is be very political in a not obvious way through a superhero genre. Because that last fight with Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman, we specifically put them on the Underground Railroad. There was no two ways about that. And it was our African ancestry and our African American culture fighting each other, because that's what we have been doing. We've been told our culture is a ghetto culture, being African American. And it's been that they've been pitting those two cultures against each other. When what it actually is we've been African the whole time. It's in our DNA and it is never gonna leave, right? And that's what we were trying to say, in a way that while you're being entertained with bright lights and fancy colors and beautiful men, right? That we're really trying to tell you that the fight on the Underground Railroad has never ended, and it may not end in our future. So I think that is one of the ways that art and politics and history intersect. Maybe not the most obvious way. I'm sorry, my dogs are very noisy right now.
You're good. Wow. Okay, everybody's seen that movie. It was amazing, first of all. But the fact that you thought so deeply into it, and there's so much more to it, that's really powerful. Miss Carrie, do you have any input on that?
I mean, who tops that? Who tops the Underground Railroad example? So no.
No, you have to. So
yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's just, I think that Hannah's point is the right one, is that there's so much, I think we would all underestimate how many images we consume every single day. And whether we are, and if we're not approaching these things with a critical lens, if we're not thinking about them and paying as much attention to the content we consume as to the food we eat or to the words that come out of our mouth, right? Thinking about the words that go in. That's what creates our paradigm. That's why we have to go through a journey of self-love. That's why we have to go through a journey of unlearning things that maybe no one explicitly ever taught us, but that somehow we know and somehow we act on and somehow we've embodied. And that's because we are constantly consuming images and constantly consuming ideas. And we have to be, as we know, incredibly judicious about what we're exposing ourselves to.
Wow. And that, you're completely right. I remember a class I took before, so we get about roughly 3,000 messages a day. Like, we don't even stop to think about that. So it's that stuff. Thank you so much. And remember, to those watching, if you have any questions, feel free to use the hashtag #OurPower or type them in the comments and we'll try to get to them. For the next one, this is also both for you, and Ms. Carrie, you can go first. That would be great. What advice do you have for youth people who want to work in the film and/or TV industry besides the typical hard work?
Sure. I mean, the typical answer is typical because it's the common denominator, right? So, like, I have to say that one plug for hard work. You can't get around it. But the reality, if you want to be in the arts, if you have tools that in your hand, you're all on a device of some stripe right now that allows you to create art in a way that was unimaginable a generation ago. I'm currently, like, my partner is a photographer, and one of the limitations of his that he talks about in his early career is he couldn't afford film. Digital cameras didn't exist yet, and he literally had to learn how to take an amazing photograph because he could only afford to only take so many pictures and have so many pictures developed. So the idea that you're all on a camera, we're creating a movie right now, means that you have tools at your fingertips that are that open a universe of creativity and of making to you, that's unbelievable. And so again, if you put in the work of learning these tools and learning this craft, then you can you will be able to forge something really special for yourself. As Hannah was saying, I think we're going to take all of her fire quotes for the rest of this, is like, your story is a powerful one and is the most important one to be told. And so you have your story and you have these incredible tools at your disposal, and you can make something really powerful, whether that's writing or film or music, and you can do it all on your computer, right? So it's about, like, again, I will harp on this all the time, back to the idea that what we passively consume so often will create barriers and limitations that are entirely figments of your imagination, right? Whether it's imposter syndrome or just like not seeing someone who looks like you or who behaves the way you do in that role or whatever, or just like finding something better to do with your time, like that consumes 12 hours of your day, whether it's texting or Instagram or Netflix or whatever, watching other people's creations,
right?
Like spending your time with other people's creations and being like, oh man, I want to make something. Like, just do it. Like, you actually have to put those times in. Every hour you spend doing something for someone else or doing something that isn't your passion is an hour you're not spending doing the thing you're passionate about or working towards the place you want to be. You have to be incredibly judicious about your time and your energy and your focus. There's nothing more precious than your time, nothing. And we pretend as though time is endless. We pretend as though our supply of days is endless.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Definitely. I think that was literally at me. So I'm going to go work on my time management skills. Thank you so much for that. Miss Hannah, do you have any input on that? Would you like me to repeat the question?
What Carrie said. I mean, look, here, look, this might sound silly, but you got to get up every day and say to yourself, they can't take this heat. They can't take this heat. Because, and let me explain that to you. When I say they can't take this heat, that means you have to have a determination that only rivals the heat of the sun. And when you have that type of determination, you become resourceful. And when you become resourceful, you do anything, because it's really just a puzzle. It's just figuring out the string that leads you to the next thing, that leads you to the next thing, that leads you to the next thing. And then you realize the whole time, your journey is your destination. It's not about where you're going to get, it's about getting there.
Right.
Because that's where you're learning life. That's where you're learning your craft. That's where you're meeting people. You're hearing stories. You're becoming better, a better storyteller, because you have to be the best, Here, I'm going to be truthful right now, because I always say that's brave, right? I always say that's what we can do. That's revolutionary. If you want to be where I'm at, that's what you got to do, And I could say, yeah, you Black, you're going to have to work 10 times as hard to get half as much. And if that wasn't a lie, it's not. It's still the truth. And I'm here to hope one day and work my ass so y'all don't have to do that, right? I always say to people, it's too late for me, but I'm here to make sure it ain't too late for the next generation, because I have a son that's all y'all's ages, right? And I'll be damned if I watch this next generation go through all the things I had to go through, all the bullshit. Because you know what? Y'all stand up now. You hear the spoken word in the beginning. They're not dealing with my generation anymore. Y'all say what you have to say, So you need to take that into your work. You need to take that into your craft, And somebody might say that's an attitude. Somebody might say whatever the stereotypical thing, especially if you're a Black woman, they're going to say like, whoa, 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 you're being aggressive. We all heard it. But that's not what it is at all. That's you having agency. That's you controlling where you go in your life, because that's the world everyone is trying to make right now. Y'all are trying to make right now. And my generation has been leaning on your generation to do it for forever. Because again, all my friends and us, we say it's too late for us, but we need to, we're here opening doors for y'all. So take those opportunities, reach out to people. You got Twitter now, you got all these social media platforms. You see someone you admire, you reach out to me, I'm going to get back to you.
Right.
I'm going to give opportunity. That's the truth. That's where everybody needs to come right? You need to find the people going to give you opportunity. You want to get someplace, that's how you get someplace, because you're up against, in the film industry, legacies. Third generation crew, actors, all, family in there. Now you got me.
Right.
Now you got Ava. Now you got Ryan. Now you got Barry. Now you got Carrie. Now you got all of us. Now you reach out to us, because now we pass this on. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm here. Right? So that's what I expect from this generation. You reach out to us and you let us raise you up. That's how you become great. Yeah. And I mean to leave a legacy. And my legacy is all of you. How about that?
I don't got nothing to say now. Thank you. Wow. And what I got from that, from both of those, work hard. It's not going to be easy. No. But wow, between you two, we have some dynamic Black women in the house right now. So, wow. Whew, okay. Next question. Gotta recover from that one. Okay. So this next question, we have a couple more questions here, and this next one is for Miss Hannah. So you were the production designer for Moonlight, a film that tells the story of a young gay Black boy, growing up in a rough part of Miami. This film is incredibly important as it tackles intersection that many people don't speak about.
Mm-hmm.
What impact would you say in society do you think that Moonlight has had on those who've watched it, and how does that play into the current worldwide movement of Black Lives Matter? Could you show some intersections or?
Well, Black lives can't matter until all Black lives matter. Let's be clear about that.
Period.
All of them. We do ourselves no service if we do not understand that. And I think that's part of what Moonlight was saying, because, LGBTQ in the Black community historically has not been open, has not been letting people in. So that it's like, you know what? There are gay Black people who are struggling with this identity. And I think what was important about Moonlight is it showed Little, Shiro, and Black. It showed one man's journey through understanding, through denial and anger, and a closeted life, to acceptance. And in that movie, he did not get the acceptance of his parents, but he found that within himself. And I think that was what was so important. For healing any type of trauma. There is trauma in the Black community. The other thing that was untreated trauma, 400 years of untreated trauma, and I can't imagine what that is to be LGBTQ and also have that on top. I mean, I know what it is to be a Black woman, and have that feeling, but not that. So that's I wanted people to see in Barry as well. You're not alone. That's the most important message out there. Any young man to see that and know that there is someone who is telling their story, that they are important and worthy to have their story on the screen. You are worthy. You are worthy in this community. And while there is pain and trauma there is healing at the end. And the more you see that in film, the more subconsciously that permeates throughout our community and throughout everyone. I'll tell you a real quick story about Moonlight. I'm working on Black Panther. It was in Georgia. And I went down to one of the sets, and the carpenters, a lot of them were from Texas and South Georgia. And there was a really older man and older white man, and he first thought that I was there working for the construction. I was like, no, I'm the production designer. And he's like, oh wow, okay. And and he says to me, his name was Merv, and he said, well, what else have you done? And I said, Moonlight. I just did Moonlight. And he said, you know what, I saw that movie. Now this man lives out in the middle of nowhere in Texas. He's like 70 years old. And he said, you know what, I really connected with that. And I thought, really, what's going on there? And he connected with this, he's like, when I was growing up, my mom had a drug problem. And he's like, I was little. I was little. The fact that you can connect with any aspect of that film across the board is what makes that film so powerful for me. The other thing that makes it so powerful for me is, again, that it was true Black cinema for me, in this sense of when I think of Spike Lee, right? I'm thinking of Black cinema with a Black cast. That was radical in itself, to have a fully Black cast and mostly a Black crew, Black director. So there was a lot about that film that was very important.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. We appreciate it. It's dynamic. And like you said, all Black Lives Matter. That's first foremost. So thank you. For Ms. Carrie. Is Ms. Carrie here?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we have a question for you.
Okay.
So the advice, build your own table if you're denied mainstream opportunities, is often given to BIPOC artists who face obstacles in having their stories told. What inspired you to start your own production company, and what stories do you hope to tell? How do you tell them authentically?
I mean, listen, I've never been good at having a boss. I was told by my last boss that I was the worst employee he had ever had, because I kept referring to us as working together. He's like, no, you work for me. I was like, well, I don't know. But it's just, so when I left, I just really didn't want to have a boss. And so that means you are an entrepreneur, essentially. So I kind of had no choice but to start my own thing. And I didn't really know any better, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I didn't know. I just, I didn't want to work for someone, and I didn't know how much hard work goes into running a business. And I'm very grateful to have partners that do a lot more work than I do in terms of like doing our taxes and like all sorts of stuff. But that was really, I mean, it was a political decision. It was not wanting to have anyone to report to or be accountable to that was in a hierarchical structure. And could tell me what stories I wanted to tell. That's just, when the reality when you work for elected officials, no matter how much you may or may not agree with them, is that you operate through a lens that is determined by their worldview. And I disagreed with Barack Obama about a bunch of stuff. But that doesn't matter, because my name wasn't on the sign, and my name wasn't on anyone's ballot, and no one cares. So no one but my parents were like, woohoo, yeah. So I wanted to be able to fully articulate my worldview. And so in order to do that, I had to be the person who had control over what those decisions were, and to be someone with final control. And then as to the second part of that question, as it relates to telling stories authentically, I'm really thoughtful about, we talk a lot and at our company about the content supply chain, which is like, I shouldn't tell a story I don't have a perspective that is constructive and meaningful and authentic and organic. Someone else will tell that story. That's someone else's story to tell. And for me, I think people have different sorts of calculus and figure out how they position themselves in relationship to a story. But for me personally, I don't, if I can't talk about the subject matter with an I sentence, with a when I, or when that happened to me or someone I love, or my feelings on that, then I just don't tell it. And it's just not for me. If it's it's tempting to feel like just because I think something is interesting or just because I think something is beautiful that I should be a part of it. But when you really take a step back, it's like, no, that's not actually my story. I'm just going to admire that, and I'm going to love that, and maybe support it in some other way. But that's, I think we all, as we learn in our organizing practice, right? You got to know when to step back, and you got to know when to step up, and got to know when to call out and when to call in. And part of that is really being judicious about what stories we choose to tell and why.
Wow, that is powerful. Speaking our own truth and allowing that space for others who have that truth. Wow, that's profound stuff. So this next one is for both of you, and this will be our last question. At the beginning of the call, we heard from the amazing Shinny, who gave a piece that a lot of young people can relate to and use to heal. How do you use art to heal?
I'm going to let Hannah go last, because I feel like we all know the truth, which she's going to close us out with a word.
Oh my God.
So I'm just going to do what we're advising y'all to do, which is seize this opportunity.
I love y'all.
And, for me, so much of healing is about understanding, and I'm a big reader. I actually still prefer to read things more than I do to watch things, which makes me kind of a content dinosaur. But I am, I'm someone who very much needs the stories of other people to contextualize my life and to contextualize my journey, and to remember, you know, when you're sad and when you're suffering, you think it is so easy to feel like the only one on the planet, especially now that Instagram exists. And to think that we are alone in our suffering is one of the greatest and most profound kind of, I don't even know, like, fallacies of humanity, right? You are never alone in your suffering, sadly and unfortunately. And it's probably not the worst that someone you know is going through. And so to me, both to kind of buoy my spirits when I'm feeling anxious or stressed or sad about something, but also to like connect my joy to something that's bigger and broader. And so really in positive ways, and to mitigate some of the more challenging things. I wouldn't phrase it as negative, but to mitigate the things that require healing. It's about, you know, art and culture allows me to connect with other people on an individual human level and kind of be a part of that broader human story.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for having me, everyone. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. It was wow. Wow. I have new aunties. Love this. So Miss Hannah, can we get your input as well?
You know, how do I use art to heal? Really, I write. That's one big thing that I've always done my whole life. Like I'll just out everything on paper, you know, as a way to sort of sort it out. You know, I've got to put it in prose. I've got to write a story that somehow, you know, helps me figure out a lot of stuff. You know, we all have stuff in our life that we need to work through constantly. The past is never done with you. And, you know, figuring out that. But I tell you what, I'm one of those people who's sort of driven by my feelings. So if I really feel like I'm angry, or you know what I mean? Like the healing for me is to sort of go in that direction. I will go to, you know, weird stuff, crazy stuff probably, but I like to drive on a racetrack. That is like the best way for me to relax. I like to go really fast. And, you know, I'm a little bit like that. That's not art, but I mean, it is in a sense. Everything is designed, if you think about it, everything is designed. Being in that car is designed. But I do write. That's the one thing that I do. I love photography. I like to create things that are talking about my moment, like whatever it is that I'm going through. And it's always, like Carrie was saying, it's this telling of a story. You know, I think if it's just in you, it's in you. And that's part of, you know, being a creative is you will always find a way to work through whatever trials you have creatively, because it's the only language that you really understand at the end of the day. That's how you speak. And again, going through that, like what Carrie said, and you know that you're not alone in all of your suffering and trauma. But, you know, I also like to do some crazy stuff, like drive real fast. Nothing wrong with that.
Wow.
Thank you for having me. This has been really delightful, and all the performances in the front were just beautiful and powerful. And just hearing everybody speak, Trevor and Matt, well, Trevor, you've been there, haven't you, honey? Maxwell and Naya, your group's fantastic, amazing. And I'm so excited for y'all, next generation. I look at all of you with admiration and absolute, I'm in awe. I'm in absolute awe, and I have nothing but love for all of you.
Thank you. Wow. I am elated. I am so glad that you were able to make it to talk to us today. Thank you for everyone who performed today. Thank you to Shinny and Carolina and Miss Carrie and Miss Hannah right here. Do y'all have anything else y'all want to add, Miss Carrie or Miss Hannah? Anything else you just want to parting parting heat. You wanna?
I mean, you know, Hannah spoke for both of us. Hannah spoke for both of us. Like, you know, you don't get opportunities you don't help make for yourself, you know, and we are here. And if you get back, and if you reach out, like, I might be slow, but Hannah might have a faster response rate, but I will get back to you. And I would love, you know, people who are interested in working in film, interested in working in TV, please let me know. My email is carrie@culture.house. I'm easy to find on the internet. And, you know, to Hannah's point, like, I consider myself accountable to all of you. And that is very much part of how I would calculate my success in this life.
And push back with your art. Push back. Always. Make them uncomfortable. Make them squirm. Make them look inside themselves. We are in the age of introspection. You make people look inside themselves through your story. Push back with your art. That's what I got to say. Period.
That's on period. That's on what?
Period.
Thank you so much. I will personally be reaching out to both of y'all. And thank you for everyone who showed up today. Thank you for all of you out there who are here watching with us. We hope that you take this inspiration and the pieces of information that we learned here today and apply them to your lives. Make sure that you're taking care of yourselves, you're staying healthy, and above all, you're being dynamic and fighting white supremacy in America. So thank you so much. And there will be music if you want to, what is that, dance party? If y'all want to turn up a little bit, feel free to do that. We are, you know, we're good. So thank you so much.
Sip.